The Education and Training Bureau of the Autonomous Administration of North and East Syria has held its first Women's Conference to focus on the role of women in the educational sphere in the autonomous regions. The conference is organized under the slogan, "With the spirit and efforts of women, we will create a united educational slogan," and will continue until 4th of March. International Women's Day is celebrated across regions such as North and East Syria, Shengal and Mahmoud Camp, all of which follow the teaching of imprisoned Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan in placing in special importance on women's role in society. The conference was held in the meeting hall of the Raqqa Educational and Training Bureau. Raqqa, the former de facto capital of ISIS and NIS's largest Arab majority population center, was liberated by the Syrian Democratic Forces in 2017. Under ISIS, women were banned from the educational sphere, with even young girls prevented from studying. But the AANES places a special prominence on women's education, both in the classroom and through community, women-led education initiatives. The meeting was addressed by leading local female politicians, including the co-chair of the AANES Executive Council, Berivan Khalid. Celebrations for 8th of March, International Women's Day, continue in North and East Syria. Women distributed flowers to members of the Asayish, which is the internal security forces in Tervespia in the Jazeera region, while refugee women displaced during Turkey's 2019 invasion of NIS planted trees as part of ongoing events to mark the international celebration. In Tervespia, members of the Women's Assembly of the Democratic Union Party visited the Asayish at their checkpoints, along with representatives of local civil society organizations. Women play a prominent role in military and security formations across North and East Syria, not only the all-female YPG or Women's Protection Units, but also in autonomous female bodies within the internal security forces. In a gesture of thanks and solidarity, local women dressed in traditional Kurdish dresses and distributed flowers. Meanwhile, refugee women displaced from the city of Tel Abyad planted 115 sycamore and date trees to commemorate 8th of March. Hundreds of thousands of civilians were displaced during Turkey's 2019 Operation Peace Spring, during which women were systematically targeted by the Turkish armed forces and their proxies. The death of female Syrian Kurdish politician Evrin Khalif was only the most notorious of a wide range of violations and attacks against women, who continue to suffer disproportionately as a result of the occupation and experience regular violation in the occupied zone. Nearly 30,000 people in Shedadi, North and East Syria, have added their voices to a global campaign calling for the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, to be removed from international terror lists. It marks a major demonstration of support from the Arab-majority city, where Kurds and Syrian Christians also participated in the campaign, organizers said. In a statement, the local Democratic Union Party said, "We will continue to struggle and collect signatures in the Shedadi region and work to have the PKK removed from the terror list." Turkey benefits from the PKK being de facto included on terror lists across the West, though no European court has ever found that the PKK should be included on the domestic terror list. Critics say the PKK is only included on terror lists at Turkey's behest to stifle legitimate debate or any attempt toward a resolution of the crisis in Turkey. Outreach efforts are expected to continue in NES and elsewhere as campaigners aim to collect millions of signatures across the globe. Kurdish women in the Kurdistan region of Iraq have carried out a tree planting campaign ahead of International Women's Day. 50 saplings were planted in the city park in Suleymania, the second largest city in the semi-autonomous Kurdish region, on 2nd of March. The campaign was conducted by women from the Free Women's Organization of Kurdistan, or TJAK, who cleaned the parks before planting the trees. Their aim was to clean up the park and revive the environment, participants said. Women's liberation and the environment was bound up in the political theory of Abdullah Öcalan, who views both as crucial to establishing a truly free and democratic society. TJAK, like many women's organizations in the region, is inspired by Mr. Öcalan's philosophy. The staff of the city park thanked TJAK for their efforts. International Women's Day was also celebrated by the Kurdish political movement in Europe, with the Kurdish Movement of France holding an event in the French town of Drancy on 3rd of March. During the event in the Paris suburbs, women shared breakfast and joined a panel discussion, as well as watching a screening of a film about Kurdish women's political organization and armed struggle. Milena Sauloi followed Kurdish women in the media defense zones, under the effective control of the PKK, for over 10 years. She last visited the region in 2015, and since then has created the film Women's War, based on her experiences. The film was displayed in Drancy, followed by discussion of its contents. Thereafter, a panel discussion was held concerning women's struggle and the political murder of women. On 9th of January 2013, the three female Kurdish activists Sakine Kansiz, Figan Dogan, and Leyla Seylemis were shot dead in Paris by a gunman linked to the fascist Turkish Grey Wolves organization, believed to have been operating under orders from the Turkish MIT intelligence organization. But the gunman died before he could be brought to trial, and no one has ever been brought to justice over the execution-style slaying of the three women. During the 3rd of March event in Paris, women discussed the impact of the killings and the role of Kurdish women in promoting women's rights, autonomy and self-determination in the face of gender-based state violence. In the Said Sadiq district, where women weren't allowed to work, the gender stereotype have been broken. Women living in the Said Sadiq district of Suleymaniye Governorate in the Kurdistan region have gained many achievements in the last 6 years. Before, the women weren't allowed to work in the district, but now they play an important role in the labor force. Women started their business in the district are very happy for standing on their own feet. Kurdistan Jamal is one of the women starting their business in the district. She's a shopkeeper for 4 years. She describes herself as the first female shop owner in Said Sadiq. I began to work when I was a student, but then I opened my own shop with the support of my family, and now I stand on my own feet, she said. Kojin Hamed Saleh, who graduated from the Faculty of Engineering, wants to start her business. After graduating from the university, she looked for a job for a long time, but she couldn't find any job to work as an engineer. Now, she works in a shop. I enjoy working here because my job helps me financially and morally, she said. Seyran Mehmet is another working woman in the district. She's a shopkeeper. Every day, many women come to thank me for my work and ask me to keep working. The women are pleased with me, she said. Kausar Birizu has a clothing store in the district. She runs the store with one of her friends. I like my job. Women come to our store to buy what they need. Protesters in the semi-autonomous Kurdistan region of Iraq have blocked roads over protests due to the lack of oil distribution, succeeding in extracting a promise from the governing Kurdistan regional government that the issue will be resolved in the near future. Residents of the Chemchamal region has been waiting for the distribution of oil for several days, and on 3rd of March took to the streets to demand the provision of oil. Locals paid the government 90,000 Iraqi dinars for 200 liters of subsidized oil per household, but the promised amount had not been delivered, demonstrators said. The situation was resolved following a half-hour protest blocking a key arterial road as the governing authorities promised to meet their obligations. Our oil and gas is being stolen, and the local people are left without oil, water and electricity, said protester Abdullah Sabeh. The demonstrations come in the context of ongoing unrest across the wider Kurdistan region of Iraq in response to financial mismanagement and high price of services. Bashur's oil wealth is largely controlled by a handful of members of the Barzani family and other close to the KDP, with ordinary citizens seeing little benefit from the region's natural resources. Meanwhile, many locals struggle to afford basic necessities. The KRG has suffered recent waves of protest by teachers, municipal employees, students, and others affected by an economic crisis which has also driven thousands of Kurdish refugees to Europe, many of them losing their lives in the process.